Good evening and welcome back to another edition of Money Talk with Melanie. I am your business diva, Melanie Collette, broadcasting live from beautiful Cape May County, New Jersey via SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio and TV. I am very excited that my guest today returning is Mike Fitzpatrick, who is a cybersecurity expert and founder and CEO of NCX Group Security. And we're going to talk how safe is your cryptocurrency. And I am really excited about that. You know, we've been talking about cryptocurrency. Hi, everybody in Facebook land. For those of you who are listening to SHR Media and via High Plains Pundit, I also do stream live on Facebook. And so people are starting to pile into the chat. Hello, everyone. Doug, Greg, Patrick, James, Mohammed, Bobby, John, hi. I've been talking a bit about cryptocurrency and Bitcoin and things like that since, you know, it's heavily in the news. I'm actually dabbling a little bit myself. I'll share a little bit about that at some point. But with Mike being a cybersecurity expert, I thought it would be a good idea to talk to him about the cybersecurity issues that might be involved with cryptocurrency. And he is indeed an expert. And if you've heard him on the show before, then you certainly know the man knows what he is talking about. So, and actually there's Greg Wilson, another cybersecurity expert, is in the Facey chat. Mike Fitzpatrick. Mike Fitzpatrick's holding on the line, gracious enough to hold on. Antoine Magellan, Smith Randy, hi. So, Chad Michael, hello. Levon, hi. So, I'm excited that we're going to talk about the cybersecurity safety issues that could possibly be involved with cryptocurrency. It should be, and we're gonna touch on net neutrality a little bit because there are some things happening in the news with net neutrality. But before we get to that, a little bit of housekeeping. I checked my Twitter, the Twitter show page today. I'm at like 968. I should be at least 1,000, right? Like, am I that lame that I don't have 1,000 followers on Twitter? My point is, go on Twitter and follow me, would you? Follow my show page at Money Talk Mel. On Twitter, if you would. I'd love to have you there. If you want to follow me, like for political commentary and stuff like that, NJGOP Diva is at NJGOP Diva is my Twitter handle, my personal Twitter handle, if you want to follow me there. Oh my goodness, hi, Shelly, Chuck, David, Robert, Charles, hello, and welcome. So, what else do I have to tell you? Oh, tomorrow I'm going to be on Ron Edwards' show, approximately 4:15, the Ron Edwards Experience, right here on SHR Media, High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. I'm going to be speaking with him about the state of our public school system. So I'm excited about that. Ron Edwards is the gentleman who does Ron Edwards Notebook, who you hear on my show daily. So I'm excited that I'm going to be a guest on his show tomorrow. It should be pretty cool. He's just so cool. I'm a major Ron Edwards kind of groupie, just saying. So I'm excited to be on the show tomorrow. And then Monday, I'm going to be on Corey Portier's show. And I don't think we've decided what we're talking about yet. And then he's going to be on my show. After that, we're just going to do like a double header. I'm going to be on his show. He's going to be on my show at 5. So that should be pretty cool. I'm excited about that. All right. What else do we have to talk about? Let's talk a little bit about the news, things that are going on in the news. Disney bought 21st Century Fox today for $52.4 billion in stock. Long story short, they bought everything but the live news outlets. That is like the quick and dirty on that one. but it should be interesting to see what happens. So like all the standalone live stuff, like your Fox News and Fox Business and all that kind of stuff, is now going to be a separate company. And my understanding is they're going to build on that. So should be interesting, but that's a huge buy. Now, before we go to break, I want to talk a little bit about net neutrality, which will be a nice kind of intro into speaking with Mike on the other side of the break. Our guest today, Mike Fitzpatrick. Today, the FCC voted on net neutrality, and what they did was roll back the Obama regulations. Now, there's been, this outcry and panic and clutching of the pearls about this, but it's only been enacted for like a little over a year. Like, calm down. And basically, here's what happens. What net neutrality does is it states that all traffic has to be treated equally by internet service providers. The problem with that, and what the FCC chair argued today, is that by repealing this rule, it'll create more competition, allow other companies to be more innovative among internet service providers. And of course, people who oppose this say that it's going to lead to higher costs and fewer options. I always err on the side of less government is better. I just think that is a good general rule to have. Less government is better. You will definitely get more competition that way. And here is what that looks like in real terms. Net neutrality regulations made it so that your big companies, your internet companies, couldn't block websites or charge for higher quality service for certain content, like streaming video and stuff like that. So people are saying that it's going to cost more, but anytime there's more competition, that usually is not the case. So, and the other thing is, the other change to the law is that the companies are going to have to reveal to customers that they're doing this. Before, they weren't telling us, that they were doing this, that they were charging more for streaming video, that they were charging more the more data you use, that kind of stuff. They weren't telling us. So now they're going to have to tell us. Here's the rub. This was just the first step in making this happen. But there are several steps to go. There's been a couple of lawsuits. So that's not going to happen like immediately. So I wouldn't look to be affected by that too much too soon. One more thing in the news. One more news item. Apparently, roughly 4.6 million people are severely behind in their student loans, their student loan payments. And that's increased twofold from 2013, according to the Department of Education. A ton of us are defaulting on our student loans despite the strong economy. But here's the thing. Anybody who has a student loan knows this. That can be as high as a car payment or a mortgage payment. And who of us, even in a strong economy, can really afford that? I mean, really, two mortgage payments, 2 car payments. I mean, it's really high. I don't know what they're going to do about it, but it's that the student loan situation is a very serious problem. And here's the other thing: how it's going to affect the economy. If you go over a year without paying your student loans, that lowers your credit rating. If you have a lower credit rating, that's going to affect your ability to buy a house and buy a car and things like that. So that's kind of like a secondary impact of people defaulting on their student loans, and that being a situation. It does have a direct effect on the economy. So just important to remember that. When we get back on the other side of the break, we're going to have the one and only Mike Fitzpatrick. Very excited to have him here. We're going to talk a little bit about net neutrality, and then we're going to get into the minutia that is cryptocurrency and cyber safety. I can't wait to have this conversation. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I am your business diva, Melanie Collette. We'll be back on the other side of the break.
President Trump has directed the United States to officially recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, despite what the Dragon media and others may proclaim. Jerusalem is the eternal capital of Israel. Hello, I'm Ron Edwards. On today's page from the Edwards Notebook, the city of Jerusalem was first designated Israel's capital over 3,000 years ago by King David, as described in 2 Samuel in the Bible. Following King David, his son Solomon built the Holy Temple and installed the Ark of the Covenant there. Ever since the days of King David, the Jews have faced Jerusalem in their daily prayers. It is the center of Jewish faith and the core of Jewish history, which predates by over a millennium the Islamic persuasion. Jerusalem is where the Knesset governing body is housed, and it doesn't make sense for the United States to maintain its embassy 60 miles away in Tel Aviv. I believe that despite the violent protests and the numerous nations around the world who have denounced President Trump's decision to move the U.S. embassy to Jerusalem, it will ultimately bode well for both the United States and Israel. After all, Israel is a sovereign nation with the right to choose its capital, and likewise, the U.S. is a sovereign nation with the right to choose where to place our U.S. embassies. God bless both Israel and the United States of America. I'm Ron Edwards. Sponsored by the Tri-County Liberty Coalition.
Who likes paying taxes? Nobody. That's why Eva Rosenberg from TaxMama.com wants you to pay less of them. Read Small Business Taxes Made Easy and learn how legally hiring your spouse and children can slash your taxes. Learn how to set up a business plan that minimizes taxes, the benefits of setting up an exit plan, how to avoid getting audited, and how to legally increase your deductible expenses with better record-keeping techniques. Don't let the IRS squeeze you out of every penny. Visit TaxMama.com. Click on Ask a Tax Question to get free answers to your tax and business questions. That's TaxMama.com.
My name is David Barnett, and I've been helping people buy and sell small and medium-sized businesses since 2008. So far this year, I've gone on 5 vacations. It's because I've got my own business. When you get tired of being managed by someone else and you decide that business ownership is right for you without the risk of starting your own unproven enterprise, then come over to BusinessBuyerAdvantage.com. There are over 100 YouTube videos on buying and selling businesses that you can watch for free. That's BusinessBuyerAdvantage.com.
Okay, we're back. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I am your business diva, Melanie Collette, and I am excited to have with me today the one and only Mike Fitzpatrick. He is a cybersecurity expert and founder and CEO of NCX Group Security. A little bit about Mike. He's been in this business, in the IT business, for over 35 years. He began addressing the technical needs and security concerns of businesses embracing the internet. And today, through NCX Security, he leads a team of highly skilled engineers and professional consultants who are dedicated to providing security assessments and innovative strategies that protect critical data and ensure a business environment that remains operational. Among his clientele, these are, of course, the private clientele. There's other people I'm sure he can't mention or he'd have to kill you. Are Fortune 2000 companies, Fortune 50 companies in the finance, healthcare, energy, and education fields. Welcome to the show, Mike Fitzpatrick. So happy to have you.
Hey, Melanie, I'm excited to be with you today. I've been looking forward to this all day.
Oh, thanks so much. So have I. Well, we've been chatting all day, right, about the show.
A little bit here, a little bit there, for sure.
Indeed. So let's touch a little bit on the whole net neutrality piece, if you would. I was wondering if you had any comments on that or any thoughts about whether it was a good or bad thing for the industry.
Well, as far as my comments are concerned, I thought the move to the socialist view of the internet with net neutrality was the wrong step a year ago. And I have a little bit of a perspective on this, having been in IT for 35 years. When I started in this industry, we were selling Apple II computers with 8K of RAM. We had modems at that point in time, and so I've seen it go from its infancy to what we have now, and that's been driven by competition, the need for speed and being able to improve and increase performance. And, you know, I honestly believe President Clinton and the light touch that he applied back in 92 was the right approach and still is the right approach today. If you look at the companies that have flourished without net neutrality, the Google, the Netflix, Facebook, Salesforce, all of these giant companies that we rely on today were all created without net neutrality being in existence.
This is true. Now, there's an argument to be made, and I don't know if you agree with it or not. Actually, I think I know whether or not you agree with it, but that the smaller companies don't have an opportunity because of net neutrality. I, of course, disagree with that because I think it goes against free market principles, but that is what some people would argue.
Well, you know, again, if you look at Facebook, you look at Salesforce, you look at LinkedIn, all of these companies were small companies at the beginning, right? So I think the fact that they exist in their current forms today blows that theory out of the water. The strong will survive. You have a great product. It will find its market and its success. I don't believe that that you need to provide a safety net for companies to start. I mean, you have to as an entrepreneur, you have a chance. You pay your money, you succeed or fail on your own merits. I mean, I started my business 15 years ago, $3,000 to our name, stay-at-home wife, 18-month-old son, and you know, it took 6 months to get to our first client. And here I am 15 years later, and a very robust security practice. We work with companies all over the world, and I didn't need government help to do any of this.
Well, there you go. There you go. And what you do is, you know, protect companies and entities from, you know, cyber hacks and things like that. Has the FCC called you, by the way? Never mind. I'm just kidding.
No, they haven't. I saw a great interview from the FCC chair. I think it was a week ago or 2 weeks ago, excuse me, on Glenn Beck's show. They talked for probably about a half hour. It was a very thoughtful interview from the standpoint of the pros and cons and why the reversal back to the way it's been for the last 25 years. And, you know, the case that he made that I found interesting was that Google and a couple of other large entities wrote the net neutrality plan. And, you know, quite frankly, I don't know that I want Google deciding how I'm going to use the internet.
Absolutely. And you brought that up to me before we got on the air, and I was like, what? I didn't know that.
Well, and you talked about Fox selling everything. I think it's Disney, right?
Yes.
Who acquired everything.
Yes.
Disney now owns Marvel. They own, I mean, you go through the list of the Disney properties now and the content that they own with Star Wars and everything else. You have AT&T buying up all kinds of distribution and content. I think you have to start becoming concerned about these behemoths and what their ownership is. I mean, hell, between DirecTV and AT&T on my cell phone, I think I'm writing a check to, you know, for about $600 or $700 a month between both of them.
I believe that.
So,
I absolutely believe it.
So you have to start becoming concerned with the stranglehold on content, on these larger entities, the AT&Ts, the Disneys of the world. It eliminates choice, which is one of the drawbacks that I find with net neutrality. It eliminates choice. It does not create more choice. Quite frankly, the way we've had it for the last 25 years has created more choice.
Exactly. And, you know, the thing that bothers me about Google, and I'm completely complicit, you know, you and I have talked about this before, right, is that, you know, Google owns like everything. And literally up until about a year ago, you were telling me, and I knew this and still did it, they own like your stuff in Google Docs, like everything in the app they own. You know that agreement that you just click through and never read? It entitles them to a lot of stuff.
They take no responsibility, and it entitles them to a lot. I mean, up until a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago, if you created a document or used Google Docs to create your business plan, and you were successful, and your IP's in that business plan, well, that didn't belong to you. That belonged to Google.
And that's crazy. That's crazy. That's just
nothing's ever free, right?
No, never. And
there's a price for everything.
It's true. And you know, to Google's credit, they're brilliant in how they have set it up and really got, you know, everything works well together and only works well in Google. Ever try to use Google Apps in Internet Explorer? They don't play well together. They do not play well together, and that's not an accident.
No.
You know, so
no, it's not.
And from a political standpoint, you know, Tucker Carlson about a month or so ago did like a story on Google and how deep they are in financially to both sides of the aisle. And that is also dangerous. It's one thing to kind of know what team a company's on and know that, you know, they lobby for that party or that party, whatever, is affiliated with them. But it's a whole nother animal when they're in deep on both sides of the aisle, and they are.
And they are on both sides of the aisle, but they're also in deep, too, with George Soros, the Open Border Society, and a couple of other entities as well. So it's interesting where their business takes them.
Indeed. And you know, on the one hand, you know, their service is fantastic, and that's why they're successful. But on the other hand, they own us, and a lot of people don't worry about it probably as much as we should, myself included. And you know, I know better. You know, I'm probably one of the worst because I actually know better. Most people I don't really know better, but I actually know better.
Well, and that's the thing with security, right? And I tell this to clients all the time. It really comes down to convenience versus security. So Is the issue the fact that you have to secure something, or is it more important to you to have it convenient to you? And that's really the rub here. Are we willing to give up information about ourselves and what we do and how we live our lives because it makes something convenient, because it makes time, it takes less time in our lives? But at what point does security trump convenience?
It's true.
And that's one of the real questions today.
That's absolutely true. You and I have had discussions in the past about my good friend Alexa, the home assistant. Now, you know, my position is like, what are they going to do? There's not much to listen to. If I had a family, maybe my guess is I would feel differently, you know, if there were other people that I had to protect. But as far as I'm like, oh, you're listening to me, listen to Luther Andrews. Like, I don't care. Listen to me talk to my dog. So, you know.
Well, you know, it's funny. I just walked out of a speaking engagement, and one of the things that I talked about during that speaking engagement is how the East German Stasi would have just been so envious of the surveillance that we incorporate into our daily lives willingly. They just absolutely would have been astounded by it.
Yeah. Also, I can yell. I'm trying not to say her name too loud, or she'll start playing music. Also, I can yell her name and have her, you know, do stuff for me. But it's a level of awesome that I just, I truly appreciate, but I do appreciate the risks as well. And I think part of the thing is to kind of know the risks. And speaking of which, I think that actually is a nice segue into talking about cryptocurrency and the security, because cryptocurrency is all digital, is all technology. It's not backed by gold. It's not paper. And so it is of paramount concern. And you brought up some very good questions while we were chatting back and forth earlier today that I had not thought of as far as the security is concerned.
Well, the thing that's interesting about where we are in the world today, if you stop and you think about it, Airbnb is the largest hospitality company in the world today, and they don't own anything. Lyft and Uber are the largest transportation companies in the world, and they don't own anything. So you kind of have this flowing through to Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. It's really intriguing. I mean, at the basis of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies chain, which in and of itself is an interesting security technology that has taken off in some areas like fintech. Blockchain is really taken off in that space. Others not as much. But I think it's interesting from how much the digital life has started to incorporate into our DNA every day, that you really don't have to own anything now or really produce anything now in order to be a monster company, which is evident with Bitcoin. I mean, a friend of mine bought in at $800 a coin. I guess it was probably good night. I think it was April or May this year at 800 a coin. And he's sitting there going, I don't know about this, man. He said, this could be completely wrong and I just wasted money. Well, now they're sitting there, and I checked earlier this morning, it was like 16,000 something for Bitcoin.
It's crazy.
If you look at the fact that the original transaction for Bitcoin, maybe some of your listeners know this, maybe some don't, but the original transaction for Bitcoin was the purchase of 2 Papa John pizzas. And it was done in England, and Papa John's didn't take Bitcoin, so there was a third-party guy in between. And the price was 10,000 Bitcoins for $40 worth of pizza.
Wow.
That pizza, take 16,000 times 10,000. That's how much those pizzas are. It's crazy.
Amazing. Now, I had an expert on the other day who, a cryptocurrency expert, and he is about to start getting paid in cryptocurrency. He's like, it's been around for a long time. I mean, listen, cryptocurrency's been around for over 10 years now. It's not brand new. It's not,
No, it's not. And you've got a number of subsequent currencies out there besides Bitcoin.
Yes.
You have Ether. There's another one that's escaping me now. And then you have a bunch of penny cryptocurrencies. That are sub 10 cents. So it's really what cryptocurrencies could potentially be, the power to actually disrupt nation states. I guess one of the questions I have that I asked you about this morning was, what happens when China releases its blockchain?
Right.
How does that impact things?
Right.
You look at the bubbles that we've been through. We all went through the real estate bubble recently. Well, that took 7 years to reach the peak and then start to fall off. But that was only 100% increase in the normal state of the housing market. And we all see, look at the Japanese stock market crash back in the 80s, early 90s. They've never recovered from that. And that was 600% of normal market value. You look at cryptocurrencies and specifically Bitcoin, it is 2,000% of normal value, and this has happened in a year and a half. So, one, I hope it is absolutely real because, quite frankly, if it's a bubble, it could be devastating in a lot of ways.
Well,
but it also has the power to change nation states too.
Oh, it absolutely does. I mean, it completely cuts the government out of the transaction, and banks, for that matter, out of the transaction. I mean, it's all electronic. Yep. So, I'm sure that you probably have clients who have some interest in cryptocurrency or investing somewhere and are concerned about, how safe it is just from a security perspective, how safe it is for them to be involved at all.
Well, I think that, and it's really funny, Melanie. My wife actually was one of the first people to mention Bitcoin to me back in 2007, 2008, whenever it was, right? And she said, "What do you think?" And I said, "Okay, I've got one issue with it. If there's an EMP, God forbid, how do you get access to your fortune?"
And that is huge. And just for the edification of our listeners, what's an EMP? Explain what an EMP is.
EMP is an electromagnetic pulse. So in EMP, basically, one of the events that triggers an EMP is actually a nuclear explosion. One of the things that I find fascinating with some of the news coverage of the missile launches in Iran and in North Korea, they say, well, they only go to so high and then they explode there. So they obviously don't know what they're doing because the rockets can't get anywhere. Well, could it be that the explosion at a certain height, a certain altitude, is intentional? Because if you were to drop 3 EMPs over the United States, strategically, you would take us all back to the 1800s because nothing computerized would function anymore. So without being shielded in a Faraday cage, those kinds of things. So you would take out all of the computer systems potentially. You take out the electronics for pumping stations, for gas stations, for water and sewage. So it gets to be rather ominous when you look at the damage that an EMP could cause. And if all your money is in Bitcoin or in a cryptocurrency, you may have a difficult time accessing it at some point. If that was the case. If that happens.
You're right. And I think I hate what I'm about to say. But but I think you just made the argument that bureaucrats are going to make for heavy government regulations on this currency, the bigger it gets.
Well, I'll worry about that when the government starts actually requiring shielding on the power grid, which they don't do.
Right? Like really, what are they waiting for? Are they waiting for something to actually happen? Is this what we're doing? Like that before they take care of that?
I don't know. I mean, there's been a couple of plans out there where basically for pennies to $1 a month, you could fund the shielding of the power grid to where an EMP would not be an issue. And so it is an interesting situation to those of us on the business resiliency side, the business continuity side of the world, along with cybersecurity, of why, from an infrastructure standpoint, we're not doing those steps as a nation.
That is frightening. We're up against the break. When we get back, I want to talk a bit about the cryptocurrency wallets and whether or not they're safe, or what kinds of things we could possibly put in place as a business or personally to protect ourselves if there isn't an EMP. Business Diva Melanie Collette. My guest today is Mike Fitzpatrick, cybersecurity expert and founder and CEO of NCX Security Group Security. We'll be back in a few moments.
Welcome to this week's Money Talk with Melanie, Money Talk Minute. This week we're going to discuss savings mistakes to avoid. Here are just 3. First mistake, keeping your savings and checking accounts at the same bank. What do I mean by this? If you keep your savings account in the same place as your checking account, you're going to be way more tempted to transfer your savings money into your checking account and spend money that you meant to save. So you want to avoid that. It keeps you honest. Second thing, being seduced by introductory rates. Banks do this all the time. And anytime it comes to any special offers, quite frankly, it is usually some kind of trick. So be careful of that. Many banks will offer these awesome introductory savings rates to get you in the door, and then it only applies up to a certain amount of time, and then that rate goes down real low, and you're really not benefiting. Finally, keeping all your savings in one place. Divide your savings up into different accounts for specific purposes. Have a separate one for emergency funds, or have a separate one to save for a car, something like that. The reason you want to do that is that if all your money is in one single savings account, it's very easy to accidentally spend something that was appropriated for one thing on something else. So that's this week's Money Talk Minute. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette. Please be sure to watch Money Talk with Melanie Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio.
From the war front to the streets of our nation's capital, men of faith, Dr. Michael Jones, the underground professor, and Kenneth McClinton, the exceptional conservative, bring both constitutional gravitas and spiritual perspective on today's issues to the most influential Christian urban talk show, 9:05 p.m. Eastern, Thursdays. It's a new day on New Day, Black and Red.
Hello, I'm Tim Hart. I'm the guy BZ hires due to his shameless contract with the SHR Media Network to voice his promos. He'd like me to tell you that the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show can be found on SHR Media Network, Spreaker, and YouTube every Tuesday and Thursday night at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific, featuring right thinking from a left brain and doing the job the American media maggots won't. You'll find that the speech is free, but the drinks are not. There, in the saloon, just when safety pin manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, BZ is sending his personal drones of freedom into the wheelhouses and obstacles of lovers of sovereignty and liberty nationally and globally. Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, BZ swears that no rights were harmed in the making of this promo.
Power brokers use corrupt politicians, deceptive Islam, and lies from establishment media to turn the once shining city on a hill into the city of the blind. What do the elites fear? One man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me at SHR Media, High Plains Talk Radio, Spreaker, iTunes, and YouTube for a different kind of commentary on the unpleasant blind guy. Because truth is not always pleasant.
And we're back. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette, and I have with me today Mike Fitzpatrick, cybersecurity expert extraordinaire. And we've been talking about cryptocurrency and cybersecurity. One of the things I wanted to ask you about is hacking and how susceptible these cryptocurrency wallets and could possibly be to hacking and things like that.
Well, the Mike Fitzpatrick rule for security goes back to 2002, and it's really simple. Man made it, man can break it. Eventually, somebody will figure out how to break it, right? There's nothing perfect from a security standpoint. And the cryptocurrencies and blockchain, as we advance with technology and you start to look at quantum computing and those kinds of things, it will potentially make it easier to break those technologies. Now they have a 10-year head start on what it would take to do that. But and I always pronounce this wrong, Ethereum?
Oh, yeah.
You know, that entire concept is, which is blockchain-enabled servers, where you basically can be on a server anywhere in the world without a real platform. That has already had a few issues where it was exploited and broken. So, again, anything's possible.
Yeah, exactly. And so, you know, you know, there are no regulations, and it's the good thing about cryptocurrency. It's the thing is that there's kind of no rules, right?
Well, and again, because it's digital and because it's floating out there in the ether, and so to speak, you know, quite frankly, what government's going to regulate it? Because, you know, you could set up operations somewhere else in the world, and, you know, the United States wouldn't have any control over it.
Very true. And, you know, that kind of, somebody asked the question when I had one of the cryptocurrency gentlemen on, and I'm going to ask you a similar question. You know, there's no way to really keep bad actors, such as people on the dark web, who are doing business on the dark web, from accessing this currency and using it to launder their money for their activities, I would think.
No, and quite frankly, I mean, that was one of the original uses.
Of course.
for Bitcoin in the beginning was on the dark web, and certainly wasn't in everyday, you know, in a person's life every day. So it's still, Bitcoin is still not prevalent in a typical person's life every day.
It isn't, and that's so. What do you do about that, especially as a capitalist, right? Like, how do you balance that out? How do you keep the government's grubby little rules and regulations out so that they don't artificially? I mean, listen, that's what's wrong with cash, right? That's what's wrong with the dollar. Is the government fooling with it?
Well, it's going to be interesting because, you know, you've got a lot of people getting into cryptocurrencies and developing their own cryptocurrencies. Heck, some of the largest banks now are going through and developing and banded together to develop their own cryptocurrency that's being sold as an option to Bitcoin. So it's going to be intriguing to see what direction this all goes. I mean, is this a real financial asset, or is it a bubble? I think we still have to answer that question first.
You're probably right about that. I mean, there are literally thousands, and I didn't realize there were so many. I thought maybe 50 types of Bitcoin. No, there's like a couple thousand types of cryptocurrencies. Litecoin is like another one of the more popular ones. Zcash and Dash. Monero is another one that I've heard of. But in order to, I would imagine that the wallets and the platforms that you use in order to trade, and now they're starting to get into futures as well. I think Chicago.
Right. That was announced this week, wasn't it?
Yes. Yep. Chicago exchange is doing futures with cryptocurrency. I think specifically with Bitcoin. But I would think that the platforms and the online wallets are susceptible to any type of cyber danger, if you will, as any other common website.
Well, I'm sure they're using crypto. I'm sure they're using blockchain to secure it and protect it that way from a technology standpoint. You know, it's interesting because, and I think I told you about this once before, there's another technology that I have an equity stake in that is actually more advanced than blockchain. And part of the conversation I had with the CEO over the weekend is, hey, why are we developing our own cryptocurrency with this?
Of course, that's a conversation you have. That's only the kind of conversation. Why don't we do our own crypto? Wow. Okay.
Why not? Everybody else did. Why not? And, you know, I know with this particular technology, we've turned it over to some of the best red teams in the world to hack on it for the last 4.5 years, and no one's broken anything.
Really?
Yeah. It's, you know, good look, you know, it's a dimensional kind of approach to security, and, you know, good luck finding the data in one of 500 dimensions, especially capturing it real time. But there's interesting things happening. Cryptocurrency, the byproduct of it is, the result of a real security technology in blockchain.
Right.
And blockchain is going to be used in a lot of different ways. One of the ways that it's being utilized is for cryptocurrencies. The other way that it's being utilized is in financial transactions, in securing financial transactions, and securing health records, and securing the cloud. So it's got a variety of different uses, and it's a real security technology underneath it. But at the same time, as we said, everything has got a weakness. If man made it, man can break it. At the end of the day, I've seen nothing in my 15 years of cybersecurity to change that opinion. There's always a way around. There's always a break point.
And that just fundamentally worries me, because I know you're right about that. Like I believe, and like you said, a couple of things have already been hacked, and you just know that somebody is in a basement somewhere right now trying to figure out how to get to this money illegally.
Well, think about it from a nation state standpoint, and the use of quantum computing or supercomputers to actually go through and hack a nation's blockchain, for example. I mean, it starts to play out and get into some really weird kind of what if scenarios. It's a brave new world out there from the standpoint that this is something we've never experienced. There's nothing that you can actually hold in your hand. Not like gold or silver. It's astounding to me that gold is at $1,200 or $1,100 an ounce, and Bitcoin is at $16,000. You have something that's real versus something that you can't carry around anywhere with you.
Well, I think, I'm trying to. It does defy reason when you think about it, because, like you said, it's not tangible. You know, the Bitcoin and the blockchain, it's literally technology. And but I think that's kind of the basis for it. I think the argument is like, you can buy anything with anything. If anybody is a fan of cartoons, there's a cartoon I'm a huge fan of called Teen Titans Go, and they explain currency and how it works and how it used to be backed by gold. And it's actually hilarious, especially if you know anything about money. It's actually really funny. But in this particular situation, it's all about the value that people are putting on it, and that's where its value is, and nothing more. There's nothing tangible for you to have.
Well, exactly. I mean, again, gold has been a currency in the world, no matter where you go, for the last 5,000 years.
Exactly.
So there's real tangible value to gold. And when things hit the fan, gold will be worth a lot. So will cigarettes, alcohol, and toilet paper.
Right. That is so true. So what would you recommend for somebody who is considering investing in a cryptocurrency and they're concerned about the cybersecurity experts? What does Mike Fitzpatrick say about whether or not that's a good idea, or what the best thing to do is to protect yourself, if there is a best practice at this point?
I got to tell you, it's over the last, probably 3 weeks, I've been digging into cryptocurrencies a little bit more. And as a result, my Facebook feed is literally littered with different advisors on cryptocurrency. Again, cryptocurrencies exploding and growing at a rapid rate is a new phenomenon over a year and a half. So I love how we have experts with a year and a half experience. But,
good point. It's a fair point.
So I'm sitting here, I think it comes down to the fact you have to do your homework. You have to spend 4, 5, 6 hours online and going through and maybe on YouTube and actually watching videos and presentations on blockchain to understand the disruption that this can be, not only from, as I said, not from a currency standpoint, but through healthcare, through financial transactions, through cybersecurity and just securing businesses. I mean, it potentially could have the power to disrupt nation states. I mean, what happens to the United States or an England when there is no value to those individual currencies or those nations? Because Bitcoin is now a global currency.
And it is. And that's one of the things that's attractive about the cryptocurrency. That's the thing. Before we go, we're almost at the close of the show. We have about a minute left. Can you tell the audience how to get in touch with you if they have a company that wants to avail themselves of your services, or have you speak or come on their show or anything like that? How do we get Mike Fitzpatrick?
Well, the easiest place to track me down is through our website, and that's ncxgroup.com, ncxgroup.com. You can follow us. We publish a lot of our own content as well as sharing additional content through Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn, and it's all under NCX Group. A lot of useful information there for your audience as far as what we see as interesting, where we think and where we are encouraging our clients to focus in protecting their systems. And that's probably the easiest way to get a hold of me and make contact. I love doing these kinds of shows. This is the second time you and I have done this. It's the third time, fourth time.
Yeah, I think so.
And between this and XM, and so I love the discussions that we have because they go in a lot of fun directions. So I really enjoy this.
I forgot. I had you on Sirius. I forgot about that. That was fun. I forgot all about that. That was great. Well, I want to thank you, Mike, for being on the show again. That just fantastic job as usual. Very insightful. I appreciate it very much. My best to you and the wife.
I appreciate it anytime. Just let me know. I'm happy to come on and talk to your audience.
Absolutely. You just finished listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette. I want to thank everybody in the Facebook chat. You guys were awesome. Asked awesome questions. I hope I got them all in. I hope other people are able to interact with you and answer some of your questions. Remember to listen tomorrow at I'm going to have I didn't mention who I'm going to have on tomorrow. Perry Marshall's going to be back tomorrow, and we're going to talk about designer babies and how big of a business that is. I'm really excited about that conversation tomorrow, and I forgot to tell you guys. But remember, all of this is very important because it is your money. Have a great night.